Welcome to Law Talk Today, a series devoted to bringing you informative and educational programs focused on issues of law, government, and community.
Good evening and welcome to Law Talk Today. My name is Mark Gruber and I'm your host for tonight. On this show every week we talk about different areas of the law. It could be anything from police officers to battered women to judges to legal secretaries. Every area of the law, it's a never-ending topic, and we hope that you find the show interesting. On tonight's show we're going to be talking about land use. It's a topic that those people who are involved in it or have land and exposed to it it's just amazing, all of the regulations and how involved it gets. And so I've invited on the show tonight a land use attorney. His name is Doug Henshaw. He is a partner at Porzio Bromberg in Morristown, and land use is his game, and Doug is his name. How you doing, Doug?
Thanks for that introduction, Mark. Good to see you again.
Same here. But for those of you out there, this is a special guest for me because Doug and I went to high school together, and we both practiced law in Morris County. So that's a special treat.
Why do you look so young? That's the issue for me.
Anyway, Doug, you're as a land use attorney. Boy, the amount of regulation is just enormous. Can we just start off by a general definition of what is land use and who regulates it?
Land use is really the body of law and regulations that have evolved over the years relating the development and use of real property. Really has two component parts. The New Jersey legislature passed a series of laws a number of years ago that empowered municipalities to create bodies to regulate land use. So if you want to build a restaurant, you can't build it right next to someone else's house. You need to build it in a particular spot or a zone in the town. And the second component is the laws and ordinances that towns adopt, and they create a fabric of laws regulating particular uses and the size and scope of things people can do on their property in each individual municipality. What makes land use challenging in part is every town has different regulations, different rules. Some towns apply them differently, and you couple that with an overlay of state regulation, and New Jersey is getting to be a very technically sophisticated place to try to build things. Right. Even a homeowner wants to build a deck or add a hot tub or make a addition on their garage to someone who wants to build a shopping center. It's a complex process.
There's two sides to the whole land use world out there, and one is if you're the landowner and you want to build something or change something, you have these regulations, and I guess that's designed by the towns and the state to have uniformity, for safety, for the public good, and then the other. So there's a good part of it. The bad part about it is the people that are going through the process, it's expensive, it's time consuming, and they're going, why are you regulating me so much?
Right, because it's their property.
Yeah.
Our country was basically born and formed on the principles of freedom and being able to express yourself both verbally and physically in terms of what you want to build, the character, style of what you want to do. And that's the clash that we have with land use in New Jersey.
Let's talk about the different boards that regulate it in the towns, and then we'll go to the state. But in the average town, whether it's a municipality or a township or a borough, whatever it may be, that's the lowest level, the more homespun level. What are the boards that regulate land use?
The New Jersey statutes that create this fabric enable towns to have two boards. One is called the Planning Board. Those members are appointed by the mayor of the municipality, and the Planning Board really has two functions. The first one is they're supposed to plan, so they fabricate a document called a master plan for the town, and that document is intended to describe what the town has for itself in terms of a vision, where things are going to grow, where there might be shopping, where there might be residential uses. Mm-hmm. And the second thing the board does is also it looks at certain land use applications. If you and I wanted to build a building together for a hardware store or whatever, we would have to go look at the master plan, and then we would appear in front of the planning board, and the board would regulate things like how many parking spaces we need, how the parking lot is lit, how big the building can be, how close to the side yard it can be, signage, things like that. The second board is called the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and that board purely relates to applications. They don't do any planning in the sense they're reacting to applications that are filed with the town. And they deal mostly with variances. Sometimes the variances are coupled with other forms of relief, but zoning boards just basically do variances. So let's say you owned a piece of property that was zoned residential but was vacant, and you decided that'd be a good place for a restaurant. You need to go to the Board of Adjustment and get their permission both to put the use there, a restaurant instead of a house, and then that board would also deal at the same time with number of parking spaces you might need, hours you could operate, things like that.
Like the application of the law that exists,
Right.
as well as a variance from that. That's the Board of Adjustment.
That's where they grant relief.
Right. Now, somebody could, I guess, go back to the zoning board and ask them to change the zoning, right? Does that
Sure,
ever
they
happen?
could. Well, actually, if you want to change the zoning, theoretically, you're going to the governing body who passed the law originally, and they then make a referral to the planning board. The planning board will hear your request for zone change, and then they will make a recommendation back to the governing body whether that should occur or not. So if your piece of property happens to be on a corner and you're right next to a commercial zone, you're the first residential lot, maybe you can make an argument that the zone should be extended a little bit, and that's part of the process that the planning board and governing body work hand in hand on. If you want to just get relief from the zoning, not change the law, but just get the use variance, that's the Board of Adjustment's province.
All right. Doug, I really want to ask how you take somebody through a hypothetical application, but before I go there, there's a couple of other bodies that regulate land use, and the next level up is the county.
Yes, and the county is probably the least sophisticated and least intrusive in terms of the freedoms we were talking about a few minutes ago. The county planning board is a board that has jurisdiction if your property fronts on a county road, or if your development project might impact the county drainage facilities, and that's really the extent of their involvement. So a vast majority of cases, particularly homeowners or rather simplistic cases, the planning board simply writes a letter, you apply, and the county planning board writes back and says, this project is not subject to our jurisdiction. And so that frequently is the easiest path of, or the path of least resistance to go through.
And that's if you front on a county road or right-of-way or something like that.
Or if stormwater from your project,
Okay.
the rainwater that flows from your project might impact a county drainage
Okay.
pipe or system.